In this video, we look at selection types and the quick favorites menu. Let's get started. To begin, let's come to File and start a new general blend file. We can move on to the Select menu. When working in Blender, selecting objects or part of objects is fundamental and a constant occurrence. We previously saw how you can select objects with the left mouse button, but there are many more ways, including the first selection type here, Select All. This will select all visible objects in the scene. The shortcut for this command is the A key. Double tapping A will deselect. However, a more common way to deselect is using Alt plus A. Next, we have Invert Selection. This will deselect your selection while selecting everything else. So for example, if we select the cube here, then press Ctrl plus I to invert the selection, all other objects are selected with the cube being deselected. This is especially useful in edit mode when selecting vertices, edges or faces. Next we have Box Select and Lasso Select, and we'll be taking a closer look at these selection types in the next lecture, so we can hold off until then. Additionally, you can select objects by type, so you can select all visible mesh objects, curve, text, even empty objects using this command. Really useful if you need to apply a specific operation to all objects of a particular type. Select Active Camera, select the mirror of an object, or select Random. So if we wanted to vary the scale of trees in a forest, for example. Following this, we have Select More or Less. For this, you can use Ctrl plus Numpad plus to increase the selection, or Ctrl plus Numpad minus to decrease it. This command is beneficial in edit mode for selecting vertices, edges or faces up to a designated edge. Then select Grouped, select Linked Objects and select Pattern. We'll be using some of these commands during the course, so you'll get a practical usage at that stage. However, before we do move on, I want to highlight 3 additions to selecting. The first is adding to selections in edit mode. So select the cube and tab in here. When we say select a vertex, we left click to select it. Then if we want to add to this selection, we can press and hold the Shift key and select the second vertex. And that adds to the original selection and the 2 vertices are selected. The second is selecting the shortest path between 2 vertices. So if we select this top vertex here, hold the Control key and select this bottom corner vertex, this selects the shortest distance between those 2 vertices. The final one is Alt Select. This will select an edge loop of vertices, edges or faces. So first I'm going to press Ctrl plus R to add an edge loop. Then just left click and right click to place it center. That just adds an edge loop center here. Press Alt plus A to deselect. If we wanted to select this entire edge, we can press and hold the Alt key and left click. That will select all the vertices right the way around here. Works for edges and faces also. Let's tab back now. We can move on to the Add menu now. As the name implies, this is where you'll find the various object types you can add to your scene. In the Mesh menu, you'll find a range of primitive mesh objects, basic geometric shapes that serve as an excellent foundation for modeling. Let's add a UV sphere into the scene, a form that is a useful starting point for various modeling and saves you from shaping it manually. A task that is doable but time consuming. There are also curve objects, surface NURB objects, metaballs, text, volumes, grease pencil, armature, lattice and empties. You have the ability to add reference and background images, light objects, probes, cameras, speakers, force fields and collection instances. Additionally, some of the add-ons you'll find in Preferences will expand this menu even further with unique objects. Let's move across to the Object menu. The Transform menu lists an object's transformation options. Remember the keys G for moving an object, R for rotating, and S for scaling. These are perhaps 3 most frequently used commands in Blender. Following this is the Set Origin menu, Mirror menu, Clear menu and Apply Transforms menu, and the Snap menu, all of which contain commands we will use often as the course progresses. We previously saw Duplicate Objects. Another is Duplicate Linked Objects. Then join objects together. This command lets you join multiple objects into one. So if we duplicate this cube with Shift+D, these are two individual objects. However, if we Shift select both, notice how the last one selected is a lighter color, indicating this is the active object. This means the new object will inherit properties of the active object, such as its name, any modifiers, and location transform. So press Ctrl+J and join this into one. When setting up, we made sure tooltips were enabled, so if you ever find yourself stuck for a command, hovering on the name will display a description. Also, alongside most, the shortcut key will be listed. Moving on down, we have copy and paste. These are very useful for copying values between objects. Let's see an example. In the sidebar, we can open the Item tab. Here we have the transform for the selected object, in this case, the cube. If you hover on the scale field and press Ctrl+C, this will copy the value to the clipboard. Now hover on the X location field and press Ctrl+V to paste in that value. This will translate the cube to 1 along the X-axis. This copy and paste functionality extends to various elements in Blender, like copying and pasting color values, for example. Let's open back up the Object menu and continue. Next is the Asset menu, giving you the ability to mark an asset. We'll see an in-depth example of this in a later video. Then Collections menu and the commands associated with collections. An upcoming lecture will be dedicated to collections and we'll go into more detail at that stage. More commonly used tools are here in the Convert menu. This allows you to convert curve objects to mesh or mesh objects to curves. You can also convert text objects to mesh. Let's look at an example. So from the Add menu, we can come down and add text. And I'm just going to quickly rotate this on the X and Z axes so it's facing forward. Over in the Object Properties tab, in Geometry, I'm going to extrude this text a little bit so we have a little bit of thickness. If we tab into Edit mode, we'll see this is an editable line of text. You can press the backspace key to remove the text. I'll quickly type text again. If you press Ctrl+A, it will select it all and you can press Ctrl+V to paste in your own text. We can replace this with Example. Then tab back to Object mode. If we come to the Object menu and down to Convert, we can convert this to a mesh object. So now if we tab in here, we have a mesh object that can be modified further. Back in the Object menu, there are other commands we'll use throughout the course, but the last one I want to look at here is Quick Effect, and we can choose Quick Explode. So what that does is it adds a particle system and an explode modifier onto the selected object. In this case, the example object here. If we press the spacebar to play the animation, the text will explode. That's the Object menu. You can quickly access the most common Object menu items by right-clicking and opening the Object Context menu. This menu is mode specific, meaning only tools for the selected object that work in that mode are available. So if we tab into Edit mode and right-click, the Context menu displays a list of tools only available in Edit mode. We can tab back to Object mode. For those tools you frequently use but lack a shortcut, you can add them to the Quick Favorites menu. Press Q to open the Quick Favorites menu. Right now, the list is empty as we don't have any commands stored yet. Let's assign the Selection to Cursor command here. So from the Object menu, open the Snap menu. To add a command to the Quick Favorites menu, right-click and from here, click Add to Quick Favorites. Now in the scene, if we press Q for the Quick Favorites menu, the command Selection to Cursor is now available. With the sphere selected, press Q and choose Selection to Cursor. That will snap the cube to the position of the 3D cursor. Very useful for commands without a dedicated shortcut. Incidentally, the shortcut for the Snap menu is Shift+S. Finally, we'll explore the Orientation menu. Here you'll find options for global, local, normal, gimbal, view, cursor, parent, and even the ability to add a custom orientation from a selected object. Each has a specific purpose, but let's compare global and local so we get an idea. By switching on the Move tool on the tool shelf, you can use the red arrow to move the cube along the X-axis, moving it globally along the X. If you double tap R to rotate this cube randomly and left click, then move the cube along the x-axis again, it will continue to move along the global x regardless of the object's orientation. Now in the orientation menu, change the transform orientation to local, and the manipulation arrow will change to align with the object's own orientation. You can then move the cube based on its own local orientation. If you switch back to global again and press GX, it moves along the global x-axis. Press X again and it changes to the local axis. The current orientation is displayed on the top here. This is a really useful shortcut for switching between those two transform orientations. We'll be taking a closer look at these orientation settings later in the course.